As New Yorkers head to the polls today, Donald Trump is picking up an endorsement from a man revered by a lot of Republicans in the state, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who joins me now live in studio. Mr. Mayor, thanks for joining us.
How are you, Jake?
So you voted?
I voted early. Only one time for Donald Trump.
And have you always been a Trump supporter, or did you wait for the field to narrow before?
I waited for the field to narrow. First of all, I'm a close personal friend of Donald's for 25 years, so there's a personal friendship involved in it as well. But I really didn't make the choice to support him until about two weeks ago. And I said I supported him, but I don't endorse him because I'm not part of the campaign. And nobody seems to pick up that distinction.
Right.
So
now you're endorsing him.
If you want to interpret it as an endorsement, you can. To me, an endorsement is if you're part of the campaign, if you're speaking for the campaign, if you're surrogating for the campaign. I'm not doing any of that. But I am supporting him, and I am urging people to vote for him.
As somebody who has known him for decades, are you surprised that he's a Republican frontrunner? I don't know how you wouldn't be.
Well, sure. I'm not surprised as of 2 months ago, but I'm surprised as of 6 months ago or 8 months ago. Of course, just like everyone else. I wouldn't be surprised if Donald isn't surprised.
So, I guess one of the questions I have is, you and he are very different in a lot of ways. You're similar in some ways, but different. I can't imagine you taking some of the positions that he has taken, for instance, on banning temporarily Muslims from entering the United States, et cetera.
I disagree with that.
Do issues like that, did they hold you back at all?
A little bit, but you know, I worked for Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan had a theory. The theory was if you agree 8 out of 10 times, that's about as good as you're going to get in any candidate. And I agree with him more than any of the other candidates in the field. So take the 2 Democrats out. They're out.
Right.
And I agree with Donald more than I do with Cruz. And Kasich actually isn't even a candidate.
You don't think he's a candidate?
Well, he's not if you stick by the rules. If Priebus says you can't change the rules, then Kasich can't even be
because it's mathematically impossible for him to win before the convention.
You have to have won, what is it, 5 or 8 primaries?
8 primaries, yeah.
He's only won 1.
Do you think he should drop out?
Well, I don't know if he should drop out, but he's not going to be. He not only is he mathematically eliminated, he's legally eliminated, according to the rules of the convention. And Reince Priebus is treating these rules as if they're the 10 Commandments. And I can't see him changing the rule for Kasich, but then not changing the rule for Trump.
What do you make of what kind of general election candidate he would be? I mean, you've seen his high negative, his disapproval ratings, although in the last couple of weeks he's been very restrained.
Well, I think that they're changing a bit. There's an interesting poll that someone misinterpreted. I said earlier today, I think it was with Chris Cuomo, that 65 to 70% of Republicans believe that the person who has the most votes at the convention, whether it's a majority or not, should be the candidate. I didn't say that 65 to 70% want Trump as the candidate.
Right.
But a lot of those 65 to 70% probably support somebody else. But they see the fairness of the person with the most popular votes, if he gets really close, getting the nomination. And I think...
So even if his disapproval ratings are high, you think if he enters the convention with the highest number of delegates...
This is what Republicans are telling us.
Yeah.
If you poll them, they tell us, if somebody gets close, no matter who it is, give them the nomination. Because the people have selected him, not the party bosses.
What do you think... Trump said that there would be riots if...
Well, they're not going to be riots. There's not going to be violence. There's not going to be anything else. There could be a lot of debating, a lot of discussing. I think Trump will get to the majority number. I think he's going to do really well today, which is going to give him a lot of momentum going into Pennsylvania. Most of the states, not all, favor Trump that we see coming up. So I think he is going to get to the number. And if he doesn't get to the number, he's going to get very, very close.
There are a number of Republicans who say they are not going to go to the convention, I guess assuming that it's either going to be Trump or Cruz, for whom they don't have affection for either of them. John McCain is the most recent one, saying he's not going to go to the convention. He has his own campaigning to do. Are you going to
go? Yes, I'm going to go.
And what do you think of the Republicans who are sending the signal that maybe...
And if it's a candidate other than Donald, I will support the candidate other than Donald Trump. And the only other candidate other than Donald Trump is Senator Cruz. I told Senator Cruz that. I met Senator Cruz 2 or 3 months ago. I told him that I wouldn't be endorsing him, but if he were the candidate of the party, he would have a very strong supporter in me.
Do you think that Donald Trump can win in November?
I think he can. And I think as between the two of them, he has the better chance of winning. Cruz is what we throw at them all the time, meaning a hard right Republican. They know it. It's a fastball down the middle of the plate, and Hillary Clinton has a playbook for hitting it out of the ballpark. She doesn't know what Donald Trump is going to throw at her.
None of us.
I don't know what Donald Trump is going to throw at her.
Yeah.
So if I were her, I'd rather run against a known rather than the unknown. And he has completely defied all the political experts this year, all of them, on the right, on the left.